Connected Conversations with Lena Perova. Bridging worlds, one conversation at a time.
Welcome to Connected Conversations, and today we are in Laguna Beach, just a little bit less than an hour from Hollywood and the home of a voice actor. And today we are going to be talking about how the industry changed. We are going to be talking about acting, voiceover, and dubbing, because Arturo is going to be telling us how the industry been evolving and the influence of AI. Arturo.
Correct.
So, how many languages do you speak?
Fluently, I speak 5 languages.
And they are?
English and Spanish that I grew up with, then German, French, and Italian.
How did you get involved with the industry?
The voiceover industry, you mean, or the acting? Actually, it was, of course, living in Los Angeles, this was through my first wife, my mother of Diego. She was a voiceover actress, and when I was dating her. And then when we were married, she asked me once to go with her. Of course, I was working, I was an interpreter and translator, so I was always used to speaking in public, in the court, and things like that, but never, recorded. So she had a job, and then actually it was a famous job. It turned out to be a famous job. She was supposed to do Lucille Ball. I don't know if you know the famous from the 1950s, the black and white Lucille Ball, and the husband is Desi Arnaz, a Cuban guy, and this was one of the biggest things in the 50s and 60s, and people are still watching it actually nowadays. So she was supposed to do the voice of Lucille Ball, and then they told her, the guy says, I think we can do Arnaz, can you bring one of your colleagues? So then he started calling the actors, and nobody was available. It was short notice. They wanted to do it right away. It was Universal Studios. And so she just said, hey, do you want to come along? And maybe they'll like your voice or whatever. They said, we'll give it a try. So I first said, I have nothing to lose. So I went with her, and then she went first. And of course, she was a pro. She finished. And the funny thing is that she said, okay, I need to go to the ladies' room and I'll be back. He says, but you can start telling Arturo what to do, how to vocalize, I'll be back. So she took maybe too long because the guy said, let's just give it a go, So we went all over my lines. And then when she came back, the guy said, we're done. He says, no, I don't know. This guy's a natural because it came out. And and I'm not bragging about myself. It's just that I've always was a good reader. And also I worked in areas where I was a presenter. So I was used to speaking in public or with a mic, but not for dubbing anybody in particular. So anyway, that the group was, and I didn't know how important that was, but that recording of Denise is the name of my ex-wife and me doing Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz lasted for, 10 years or no, more than that, 20 years in Universal Studios. So if you want to see the Lucille Ball show and then both of them there and you select Spanish with your headphones, that was both of us. And to the point where our kids were already grown up when we took them back, and we didn't tell them. I said, just listen. And they were listening. Hey, it's Mom. Oh, is that? And it was funny, but that was my first job. So I was introduced because of her. And then, of course, since I was an interpreter and translator and I already had an agency, for me it was easy to incorporate. We were not doing voiceover at the time. Mm-hmm. So then I just said, hey, I think we can do this, So then I started doing that, and then I looked for an agent, and she coached me a little bit, and then I started getting more jobs and doing things like that. In a nutshell.
I saw you in the studio. I remember when I was coming to California, you took me in the studio. Your voice is so strong. It is definitely an art.
Yeah, it's a projection, because I think a voice is a projection. And I don't know why. I was always, since I was a kid, I liked to be talking out loud. I used to imitate the like a soccer match, the final of the World Cup. I would just be, and my parent would just keep your mouth shut. I mean, we know you like to do this, but it's enough. We hear it on TV. Now you're doing it. So I was always like that, but it is a projection. And then I guess I just got used to it, and I never knew I was going to make a living out of it. But it's nice.
How much training does it take to keep your voice in shape?
Yeah, it takes it's breathing and it's confidence, and I mean, and when we were teaching and all that, I mean, there's a lot of things like when you are being to be a public speaker, same type of thing, breathing, projection, enunciation, but someone taking like a 6-week course, if you're a good reader and you're you can go very far. But there's voiceovers and there are voiceovers. You can be an actor or you can be just like a narrator, which is different. You don't have to do any drama or anything in particular. So for the acting part, it requires a little bit more, like acting classes, because sometimes when we were dubbing movies, well, you have to cry, you have to get angry, and that's not easy. If you haven't taken any acting lessons, it's not the same. It's not the same how people can do that. For example, I never did any drama things. I mean, the most I would be is getting exciting about Toontowns in Disneyland and getting excited, but that's just excitement. Happy voice. But like what Denise was doing and my other colleagues that do movies, that was tough because you have to to scream and project. Different situations, you have to feel it. Yeah.
So what motivates you to stay in shape, voice shape, and creative, and play all those emotions?
What I like as we're getting younger year by year is that you actually give something. We're artists in a way. We call them voiceover artists. So the artists that paint, they're painting, the musicians produce something. But what we do also brings joy to people or valuable information. So there's so many ways to help people, like even doing a medical video, for people that are in distress and they have to go through a procedure that already looks scary, so you need to have this voice of confidence that everything's going to be okay, or that you're in good hands, for the doctors doing the videos or things like that. So at the end, it's something, it motivates me because you can make someone feel happy, like a musician does, or an artist, with the visual art. We can do that too. Yeah.
And there are 2 questions that I have here. I want to talk about your business because you made business out of it.
Yeah.
Because there are artists and they stay within the art, but you took it a little bit further, and then I want to ask a question about how AI is doing it right now. So let's talk about your business first.
Okay.
What's the name of your business?
So my business is called Polyglot Communications, which surprisingly a lot of people don't know what polyglot means. Obviously you do because you're in the industry, but so polyglot, for those that don't know, comes from Greek. Poly means many, and glottos means tongue. So many tongues, many languages. So a person that is bilingual speaks 2, trilingual speak 3, and over 3 you're a polyglot. So I chose that name after we were the Language Connection for like 17 years first. That was our original name when I bought the business from the wife of a judge who just had like 5 clients, but she did it more for fun. It was called the Language Connection. So for 17 years, that was the name of my company. And then we decided at one point that to change the name because there were a few language connections, not only in the world, but also in the United States. And it became a little bit of a problem. I didn't have the name, the trademark secure. So I had to live with it, in Arizona and different states, they had a language connection. So I looked for a name, and I decided to do this one in spite of my attorney saying, I don't even know what polyglot is. An attorney, he says, I don't even know what that means. Why do you want to call a company? How are you going to? And I said, you know what? I'm going to use that word to tell people in one word what we do, because it's a communication in many languages, and this is what we do, whether it's interpreting, translating, voiceover, or anything. That's what we're doing. Yeah, so that's how I started. I started first, like I said, as an interpreter, translator, and then we went into voiceover. Yeah.
And how long have you been doing voiceover now?
Oh, that's a good question. About 30, let's see, the business is 35, and that was pretty quick. That's, so I would say about 32 years. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And how do you see the industry has been evolving through this time?
Well, it's been very interesting because the industry first, it was like a niche in Hollywood. Even all the voiceover in foreign languages were being done here. Because we had a lot of actors, a lot of wannabe actors that didn't have enough work, and then so they said, "Hey, can we do dub movies?" And then, being actors that couldn't get into a role in a movie, end up staying here. I had a lot of my voiceover in German he was hired to come and work on one film, and then he still lives here, and the French guy was the same thing. So the industry grew very fast once we started doing the dubbing part of it. Am I answering your question? What was your original question? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, how the industry is evolving.
Oh yeah. So it evolved because in the beginning it was just not the foreign language necessarily. It was the silent movies, of course. Mm-hmm. That then they say, hey, we can put voice to it, and that's how the voiceover started in the industry. And then it just became something that was. It motivated people to enjoy things a lot better, mm-hmm. whether it was, like I said, a simple industrial video or an instructional thing or something, So that started creating voiceover actors, and then they start getting unionized. I don't know how to get that word. So they became a union with, mm-hmm. SAG-AFTRA. And then from there, it started to grow, more and more. And now, of course, we have audiobooks, and it has just grown exponentially in many fields,
Yeah, I know. And you and I were talking about this, that there is, we often think about this, that it's always on the movie industry, right? Mm-hmm. But you were saying healthcare has been using it a lot, even manufacturing, because there are a lot of instructions that have been done in voiceover, right? Right.
No, exactly. So besides the movie industry, you go into so many different things. A lot of people, instead of reading those boring instructions of how to build, like, for example, one of our major clients, it's called above ground pool. So it's not obviously a pool that goes underground, but those, especially for countries, that are cold all the time, and you don't want to build a swimming pool that you're going to use for 6 weeks, right? So and spend $30,000. So you build those pools that can be huge for families, and but you have to build them above ground, and then of course when the summer is over, you fold them, you put in the garage, but they have pump, they have filters, they have saltwater filters. So it's just like a big pool, and people were struggling to put them together, following the instructions, and they returned the product, which was not cheap. There were products that were over a couple $1,000s. So the client decided to do videos, and that's one thing we did in 4 languages, and that was a client we had for like 17 years. And what I was so proud is that I would go to clients countries that. I wouldn't even think that they were there, like in Lithuania, where, that I go there quite often. And I would be in the, someone's backyard, and there it is. There's the product, and there was our video. If they probably in Lithuania, we didn't do it in Lithuania, but they would use the Russian video to understand, or the English, depends on what language the people used. And before they were putting in the product, the VHS, those days, the VHS came with the product. Then they could go step by step, stop the video, do this and that, So that was, that's just one of many, Then there's other things that are better doing it in an audiovisual way than reading a boring 17-page thing where the number of the screw or the name of the screw, and you had to go and look which screw, and you know. And this one was you step by step. You stop the video, you do that step, then you go to the next one. So among that, and then teaching and so many other things that came through the voiceover work, you know.
You and I talked once about, you were explaining to me how there is a difference between dubbing and voiceover. Can you explain to
Yes.
some of our
Yes.
listeners?
Of course. So dubbing is where you're also going to do the synchronization of the lips. So that's what you need, like for example, in a movie, or when you're dubbing I don't know, somebody important, you know, a president or the Pope or something, that you don't want him to look like it's obviously he's not the one speaking, you know. So that requires a different thing, even from the translation process.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you translate for a movie that is going to, for a movie that you're going to have lip sync, you're already in the translation thinking of the connection of what word connects, what vowel connects with this one, that it's not going to sound bad or it's going to be too difficult for the actor to you know, or the producer to sync into the lips. So that the dubbing is a different thing. Voiceover, you're only matching the time. So you talk at the same time. Like I said, I'm doing an English to Spanish, and I have, you know, 26 seconds to say this. I know that I have to finish in 26 seconds, so that when they synchronize the time and that the engineer can move it around, it will look like when like right now I'm moving my lips. I have a sound, but then when I stop, then the foreign language stops at the same time. That's a voiceover. You're just matching the time, but it's not the quality of the lips.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those can be like if you're off camera, well, you don't need to do dubbing. Nobody's looking at you. You're just hearing a voice. So why spend money on an actor and the translator that's going to charge more because they're going to have to do the lip syncing and all that? So then you just do a voiceover that is good in timing. You know? So it's a different thing for different needs. You know.
And now that there is a lot of AI solutions
Mm-hmm.
for both.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on that? Because of course,
yes. Well, you saw that there was a panic button. There was a strike with the actors, and
yes,
and yeah, it's scary. I mean, a lot of people said, "Okay, I'm out of a job." Especially, you know, in the beginning, I said, "Okay, you know, it's not because voiceover. I mean, AI is not going to be able to do like we were talking about a drama or crying while talking. I mean, it's going to take a little while for a machine to say, okay, now do the same voice but crying and do the same, you know, it's not going to be that easy. But I think what we have to do, like with everything, and we talk about this too, it's with the future of our technology, it's rather than fighting, we embrace it, you know. And what I read once, an article that said something that the way we were going to do this is to take the situation with and work with harmony. Mm-hmm. With technology, you know, rather than fighting it. It's okay, how are we going to use this? Yeah, we're going to do something better for our clients. We're going to have a better variety. But the very important thing here is that all communications, you know, they need a human touch, you know, and a lot of that is not easy to do, even if you just say in writing. Okay, well, they can do just reproduce one word for another. But even a writer, and I mean, you can have your famous writers. You don't think that one book is better than the other. Of course, that book that makes you cry, that makes you feel, that makes you angry, that emotion is done by the author, by the artist, and that I think is going to prevail. Okay, we're going to be able to use AI to speed up things, to you know, less research. You know, it's going to be more automatic, but the human touch is needed. And I think this is where a company like ours is going to step in and embrace AI, use those tools, but also have that human touch, even with a voice at one point, you know, where I think it's still better to work with the real person, you know, an actor in certain things. If you're doing, I don't know, like I used to always say this example in my presentations in the ATA and all that, if you're doing car parts, And who cares if it's with emotions or with something? You want a list of car parts? Yeah, you give it to Google and it'll come out the other day. Those things, yeah, we're not going to fight it. The machine translation is there to stay, and so is AI in certain things. But for people like you saying that I feel I'm an artist with languages and with my voice, I think there's always going to be room for that. It's just how we're going to embrace this technology, because it's uncertain. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, I'm not a IT person to tell you how advanced there is. I think I sent you a copy of that video where they're now you can produce with your voice speaking a different language, and they will lip sync. What I was talking, I told you the difference between. So if you're on camera, let's say that all this that I'm saying, and you change it for me, and I start speaking Russian, and you will be surprised that I'll be speaking as fluent as you, and the lip syncing will be also done by AI with my face.
The question, so
Yeah.
will be the emotion there?
Exactly, and this is where I think that there's still it will be flat, boring, or because I don't know how good it can be. Like I said, because I'm not in that side of technology, but I just don't think so. I mean, I was impressed when I saw the video because it was Elon Musk, and then it was the guy from Facebook,
Zuckerberg, yeah.
Zuckerberg. And they were speaking Hindi, and they were speaking, what was the other language? Chinese. And I was looking, and then the only one I could judge of the three that they did was Spanish, and I was like, oh my God, that was when I said, because that's what I do. When we do sessions with lip syncing, we will redo something. When I now will throw that too. When you do a movie, you go loop by loop. You don't go 3 minutes at a time or something, because there's so many things that, okay, stop, and then we do it again, and then we do it again, and then we change the words sometimes because it's not syncing well, So a movie can take forever. Like a 90-minute movie can take 5 days to do with lip syncing, because you stop, you go loop by loop for, for days. But, to my point, this is where I think we just need to work together in harmony with AI.
So you're saying that AI will not replace artists, but
I don't think
probably
so.
going to be a tool,
Yeah.
a toolbox.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's almost similar to how robots will replace doctors, I mean, I had surgery already with a robot, and it was fantastic, apparently. But there was a doctor behind it. There was a doctor that was following and checking that the robot was doing the right thing, and there was another assistant to the surgeon there. And so I think in all industries, it's going to be very hard to eliminate the human touch, because we are living things. We are part of the emotions. We are part of the excitements. We are part of the tragedies, and that has to be expressed with a human being, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's a very good point that you're bringing here. And I know that you are in touch with a lot of artists here in Hollywood.
Yes.
And you were saying that there are artists and actors unions, particularly during their strikes.
Right.
Can you tell me what's going on here? What's the atmosphere?
Yes. So the atmosphere, in a way, actually something very recently happened. The SAG and AFTRA, which are the big unions for the actors, were of course in panic mode, and they finally, I know the governor Newsom signed 2 bills right now. I'm not aware who came up with the bills, but it must have been some of the lobbyists from the union, where first of all, any production audiovisual has to be that is done with AI has to be upfront. They have to put their big stamp, made with AI. So first of all, that the people know, that the audience know that, and also to protect the artists and the workers that do that. And there's going to be regulations also of how they use the voice of existing actors and things like that. So there's going to be regulations, and there are going to be things like that. So it's a big step. They were very happy. They didn't give me the details, but the people in the union said it was a big thing for them. because one of the clauses says that anything that can put in danger the livelihood of people that have been working as actors for a while would be regulated. If it's something that's going to be a drastic change in, let's say, in pay, in income, in working conditions, or something like that, that's going to be regulated. So that's what I've learned through the grapevine. Which I work with one of the guys that is very active in this is a Spanish voiceover actor, and he's very excited about it because there was a lot of people that were very, very concerned about what was going to happen in the future.
That's good. I was looking at, I think we're both familiar probably with Slater organization and the reporting, because I was looking in the beginning when AI hit our industry. I looked at the media localization and I looked at the voiceover and dubbing. It took big dive.
Yeah.
And then now I'm looking at projections and forecasts. It looks like 2025. Everybody expecting the revenues and that particular part of the business start recovering and going up.
Yes, I think it's it will be an adjustment. I think it's we're just going to go through a stage of adjustment of how the tools can be applied to improve our industry, our service, and and it could be the cost too. We have to adjust to those things. We can produce, like in the field of other things in translation, that we can finish a product faster, but then we still have to judge for the know-how.
Right.
I mean, we all, if you went through the schooling for a translator or an actor, a voiceover actor or something, you're a professional, and not because the AI can do things similar to you. That means that you have to, in my opinion, lower your price, or anything like that. We're going to compete, obviously, because we're going to be competing now with machines, unfortunately, or robots or things like that. But I just have faith that it's a transition only, and that things will come back up again.
And when we are talking about different languages, do you think that language by language, how is it affecting the process of voiceover? Like, let's say you speak 5 different languages.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do voiceover in each language?
No, I don't. Voiceover, I work in English with an accent.
Okay.
So that's one field I've done English with an accent. And then I've done lines for German. I did because, again, my ex-wife said, "Hey, they need one line and they don't want to pay a German actor. Can you go do one line and they'll give you $125?" And I said, so I went there and did, because it was like a war movie that you can't even hear. So I will say something, So that happens. So, but some languages could be affected because of the way now that there are languages that are becoming more universal, like English and Chinese, Spanish. And I see that sometimes for, they will, like when you go on a plane, they only offer you subtitles in some of the major languages, So that might be affected because sometimes there's not a budget in countries like, talking about Lithuania, where I've been there many times. If you see a movie with voiceover, it's very funny because it's one actor. He does the whole movie. And he's a woman, he's a man, he's a child, he's an old man. And when I first saw it, and this is, of course, from the Soviet times, where, hey, you go just the basics, and people understand it. Why do you have to have all these voices, Or why do you have to have a house looking like very nice when you just need cement, which is, you know that better than me. So that's another interesting point of what languaes might survive and what some languages might get eliminated, or they'll say, for these languages, let's just do machine translation, or just do this because there's not that many people,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It depends. When it comes to money, companies are funny sometimes. There is discrimination on certain languages. I would call it discrimination, but they just say, hey, this is like, nobody's going to pay us enough to get a team of Swahili translators to do this play. So
How did you start your passion for traveling?
How did I start my passion for travel? That's a very interesting one because I told you also that I'm in the process of writing my autobiography, and when I got to it, it ended up being a whole chapter, but I'll put it in a very few words. Um, I think I was more of an adventurer before traveling came after it. I liked adventure. So when I went to live in Mexico, because my parents sent us to live with our grandparents that were afraid of the Vietnam War, even though I was 9. I mean, I had like, wait a minute. But my parents were panicking because they were seeing all the 18-year-old kids, of neighbors dying in the war. So they sent us to live with my grandparents, and I felt for the first time in my life lonely. I come from a family of 11. You can imagine when you go there with just 4 of us, and living with my grandparents, and then things happened. My grandfather died, and my brother decided to become a priest and left the house. So I was by myself, and it was really not a good time of my life. And then when my parents sent us a bicycle for Christmas, from the U.S. For Christmas they got it. And I remember that I asked my grandma, "Can I go anywhere I want with the bicycle?" She says, "Yeah, as long as in those days, as long as you come before dark, okay." And I discovered that I was an independent person, that I could go places that I never thought possible. And I got lost. I'm the city of Guadalajara. It's a big city. And that thing started to push me into going away from my bubble. And there was fascinating things I was discovering. And that for me were fascinating. I mean, it's boring if I explain it now, so it's no point of doing it. But it was the beginning. That was the seed that the world was so big and there were so many things to see that then I tied that with languages. And my first time I went to, because I always was bilingual, so in Mexico where I grew up at first in school, I was an English tutor, and they would hire me as a guide to go with Mexicans to Europe. My first time I went to Europe, they paid me to go. I said, sure, because I spoke English and I could help them all out, But I remember that on that first trip to Europe, we were on a train, and I saw this Dutch girl, and she was probably like 21, and she was on that train with a bunch of other people. And then she will turn to a French guy speaking French, then a German, then Italian, then English and Spanish. And I said, I want to be like that girl one day. And I did. And that's when I said, I'm going to study languages. So languages and travel was tied together. And then it was just one country after another, which is like coming back from a new country. Everything I saw, everything I smelled, everything I tasted, it was like a music, a different thing. And I said, this is more fun than, staying there and reading and going to school. And even the passion I had for soccer was like, okay, it's okay, but I can play soccer anywhere. And you can connect with soccer, with music, that's another thing I discovered when you travel. It's such a nice thing because as human beings, you connect on those levels, and kids, and if you like dogs, if you like this, and the world can be a lot better if we all learn languages and if we all travel. That's, 100% sure of that. Yeah.
I keep listening to you right now, and like almost every other sentence, you keep mentioning human connection.
Yes.
What does it mean to you, human connection?
I think human connection is life. It's basically life is what keeps us going. And I think even in the dark periods of history, or people that come out of wars, because now that I've been, traveling and I bump into refugees from Ukraine or from Palestine, and they're coming out of these horrible experiences and tragedy and sadness, but the connection with a song, or we connect with soccer, or then their eyes bright. You almost feel like they can put their misery aside because of the human touch, and this is what I felt I think I told you I lived in Israel for about 10 months, and I was actually living in a kibbutz, of course, with the Jewish people, but I would always go to Jerusalem and stay with Palestinians. It was called a hotel called the Lemon Tree, and I loved to stay there because then I will hear the other side of the story. And then I played soccer on
with the Palestinians and then one in with the kibbutz. So, and then at one point we organized matches and we mixed. And then we says, why can we be like this?
Right. Yeah. That's a beautiful, beautiful story.
Yeah.
I always remember you talking about living in kibbutz. What does community mean to you?
In community, it's also like, I live in this little town. I'd say little, 24,000 people, but in a beautiful coast in California. And so I started here with my family, with Diego, my son. And again, the connection with the community is what we all bring that was different. For me was the language and let's say even soccer. Americans play, American football and baseball and things like that. So when I was here in this town, the connection was first the Spanish. Like I was doing community work with a clinic, for the clinic for people that didn't have insurance, and I will volunteer because they couldn't afford having interpreters. So they said, Arturo, we need you, and then we'll go there. And then it was through soccer because I knew the sport. So I started doing the coaching, coaching coaches. I know how to coach. And I was coaching referees because they didn't know how to be a referee of soccer. But then I also received from the community things that I wasn't familiar with, like I've never lived at the beach. I don't know what a surfer was. And then my son, of course, he started skimboarding and other things, and it was the sharing of these things at the community that can make us stronger, definitely stronger, and this country is an example of that. I think one of the reasons this country is so strong is because of our mix, of what all the different cultures have brought to this country.
And do you think keeping and protecting language access, what role does it play in innovation that our country has? Because I do believe that our country is a leader in innovation. It
is, and I think that's something that is very important that we keep, but not a lot of people understand. Nothing can make me more mad than somebody says, "Hey, this is America, speak English." If you tell me that, you're in trouble, because I can tell you a lot of reasons why you should not keep it that way. But I think it's very, very important that this country opens up to that diversity. I'm all for it, and I think that part of the thing that divides this country is that factor. The people that think that it's not necessarily that it's one language, one religion, almost one race. I don't want to get political, but we can that divides us. That doesn't help. And when we start the diversifying in a way of thinking, and look how we eat. Americans can enjoy tacos and sushi and it's more rich, when you have that variety than if we were just, eating plain whatever it is of one culture, And I think that's very important, very, very, very important.
So what do you think we can do to keep the diversity, and how do you think we can protect the language access?
Yeah, I think it should start with our education system to push that in school. And like my son went here, there's a kindergarten here in Laguna that it's actually very expensive, but it's a German kindergarten. And I love that because they were, whatever they had, if they had teachers that, like when my son was there, and I still have a little drawing up here, he came there with a drawing written in Russian, and his little thing and all this. I said, so what does it say? Oh, this says this is. They said, well, our teacher told us. I said, how do you know? And then they had German and they had Spanish, and then they were also the philosophy a little bit like the Montessori, where kids can do whatever they want, and they will. And there were kids that were Hispanic, and they will report something in Spanish, and there were kids that were lived in Europe, or the parents spoke something, and they will do this, and then they had animals, and it was that diversifying. It was not a normal education. They were teaching them how to plant things, a tree, and they will do it together. And then they will go to the kitchen and learn how to cook, And I said, that's something we should incorporate more in our schools, and something that is more preparing you for life. or like the high school does, where you also have like, I remember the high school had, it was very funny because they were actually practicing parenthood. And they would say, oh, okay, so now you're pregnant and you're the husband, and how are you going to take care of her? What are you going to do? And you know, she's going through this, and that.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of thing, I think, is more needed in our schools. Of course, we all want our academics and to succeed in our professional life, but I think that's something that's important that we should incorporate in our school system, is how we can learn from each other and from diversity, you know, and see if we can apply it. But of course, it comes to budget and things like that. But
I agree, and we need to continue educating that US doesn't have a state language.
Yeah.
And we need to keep talking about the fact that we all speak like 350 different languages are being spoken in the US right now.
Yeah.
We need to find a way to keep it.
No, I know. I don't remember if you were in one of the ALCs. We had a fantastic speaker that was trying to revive all the dying languages. Remember, that was a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic that this guy with that presentation about, and that's all that he was doing, going around the world, and sometimes there was one person left speaking that language, and he will say, you gotta teach this to somebody else, your daughter, your son, your best friend, somebody in another generation, you know. And I think that's very, very important, because there's two trends. Other things are more practical, like they talk about just having Chinese and English in the United Nations. There's always different currents, but I think killing the flavor of multiculturalism is a mistake, in my opinion. You know.
So you're traveling, you introduce so many different cultures. Do you think it's one way or another shaped your passion and profession that you're in, your voice acting?
In the voice acting, I think so. I think so very much. You know, that the best part, I mean, when it was in the old days where we would go to the same studios, I used to go with my wife because she did more movies than I did. But the atmosphere was fantastic, because there were sometimes one studio was doing, you know, Arabic, and the other one was doing Spanish movies, and the other. And then in the breaks and or the Christmas parties, it was so much fun, because it was all the different things, the falafels and the tacos and the hot dogs, and everything was there. And so for me, it's always, in the voiceover sessions, it's always a lot of fun, because they're like when I was doing the voiceover with the pools that I told you, we will do them sometimes together, and we will have, you know, where the French was coming in, the German was going out, but sometimes we will hang out there, you know, and it was just fantastic. I mean, the fact that I could, those 4 languages, I spoke all 4. So I enjoyed it. You know, I was in all the sessions, and I knew the product well, and the client was there, and it makes just life a lot better. And this is what I encourage my kids to do too, you know, travel and learn languages.
So it's impacted your work in many ways.
Yes.
You know, and I remember you were saying that you had your employees and you guys were doing some Friday get together. They were also actors from different countries.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. We had also at one point I did stop doing that, but we did private tutoring. So in Laguna Beach, we had our offices, and then we also had there was a bookstore that will allow us in order to promote their books and all that, to do language events related. Mm-hmm. So we did wine tasting for French, and we did Oktoberfest for the Germans, and then they will promote books and stuff. And that was also a fantastic thing that people are still, you know, saying, what happened to that? Or I used to bring Italian and Spanish students in summer and put them in homes. And so the community got used to that international flavor, you know, and I did that with a company, and then I did it with a community, and you can mix it. And then it's a lot of fun, you know. Sometimes people say, you know, when you going to bring more Spanish students? It was so much fun. Some of them are still friends. They come, I think there's a couple of marriages already too, you know. people that came here in high school and they date American boys and other thing, and they all say, "Oh, thanks to you, we're married." I said, "Oh, really? What happened?"
So you're facilitating communities too.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So what do you think the future? What do you think the future of the industry of voiceover? We already established that AI is not going to kill it.
Yeah.
It's not, because it's art. You
Yeah.
cannot kill the art.
Yeah.
Because remember how we talk about 50s when TV came,
Mhm.
and there were some people who were expecting that TV is going to take over everything. Now 80 years later, we still have theater, we have live concerts because we are humans. We
Right.
connect with each other. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to kill voice acting just the way that it's not going to kill acting at all.
No. I think it's going to be more like I said. If we embrace it with harmony, new things are going to come up that you and I don't know. But I think voiceover can contribute because, I mean, look at all the producers that we have now on our iPhones. You know, everybody does the TikTok things and the video stuff. And I'm amazed sometimes when you see a TikTok says, "Man, these people there's just a skill to do that." You know, and I think that with the help of a voiceover work can be fascinating because you can also start doing that in different languages. Now right now English is the common language, but sometimes they're more funny in another language. Because I've seen them in different languages, because now there's people that do the Google Translate and then they have it or they have a cousin that does it in another language. But that's something that is very important where you're going to need. I mean, the voiceover professionals will be excellent coaches for people that want to do their own little things, or even comedians, stand-up comedians. I mean, a linguist is a big help, whether it's voiceover or just a linguist by itself, like in commercials and stuff like that. I work into a lot of commercials, and sometimes they just pay us they call us language coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go there and then they sometimes say, "Hey, you think of something better to make this more funny," and then you come up with something, and then you work as a group.
So, according to you, you're saying that the future is we are going the voiceover actors are going to be seen more as coaches.
This is one thing. If it gets like too good to be true, that anybody says, "Hey, we don't need you anymore in this work or that," but I think that it's going to be more same thing as the good translators are becoming editors to a certain point. I think that's the same thing. A voiceover coach is a voiceover actor is going to become a coach for presentations, for commercials, because we have so much experience in shortening things or lengthening things. There's certain languages, like when we do voiceover in Chinese, the Chinese shrinks. It's fine. It's the opposite of Spanish. In Spanish, like if we want to say everything that's in English with 20% more words, you're running out of breath. And the Chinese actually like, "No, we're done." I said, "No, but there's 4 more seconds to go." Yeah, but we don't need that in Chinese. We will. Oh, okay. And then we have to the video versus should we extend the video, shrink the video, or make more pauses? And this is where someone that does voiceover, we have so much experience in what you can do to say things with less words or more words and say the same thing. A little bit of what subtitles do too. Because in subtitles we're also there's restrictions in subtitles, and that is that closed caption is one thing where you just throw in the whole text as they speak, but you can't read it sometimes. So subtitles, they shrink. You have so many characters that people can read at a certain time. So that's important. So again, someone that has done subtitles, because now almost anyone can do subtitles. There's softwares that do the subtitle, but to do it right with the right amount of people have time to read it comfortably, it's a different story. So I think in all these fields, that if technology gets too good, you still need the human touch, and that's going to be the professional that's going to be that. And how that's going to change, I don't know. But I think this is what I'm saying. Let's embrace it and with harmony, and say, how can we do things better for the world, for the professionals, for the audience, for the consumer. Because at the end, this is what we do. I mean, like Amazon, look at this, our malls are disappearing, whether you like it or not. And of course, the mall is the human touch, and Amazon is the computer purchase. But there's certain things that people say, I'm sorry, but it's here tomorrow. I don't need to go in my car and buy this. I know I like the shoes this size, and I put it here. It's going to be in my note tomorrow. I don't need to go to the store. I don't need the person to try them out. So it depends, And I think that all this is, we don't know where it's heading, but we are creative. We are human beings, and we're going to find out how to use our skills in the next stage. That's my belief. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I know that you're very involved in the community. You even said that you facilitated communities.
What community?
Communities, yeah, I know that you're very involved in community and you even build and facilitate communities.
Mm-hmm.
So in your opinion, that there are so many changes right now, how do you see building communities moving forward and sustaining good relationship within the communities and between communities?
Yes. One of the things that we do professionally is with interpreters, translators is the community meetings for things that is going to affect their lives, like when they build new roads or new streets and things like that. And even the one that's very interesting is the high-speed rail. The high-speed rail is another thing that it's bringing a lot of benefits. It's going to be the high technology, it's going to be faster, create jobs. But then, so for some people, it's going to disturb their landscape, or their horses are, because the train's going to be so fast, it's going to scare the horses. So we found out all this through community meetings. So I think community work, and some communities were losing them because they said, I don't know what's going on, because this is a pocket of people from Laos, and they don't speak much English, and they missed what they were talking in the community meeting. Mm-hmm. So this is what we were bringing into that. So I think if we apply that same thing that we're doing as professional for our communities that might not know or might not have the capabilities to absorb everything, that's where when a voiceover interpreting can help. And when things like COVID happen, that I think I told you about this. I think I was telling Vadim that during COVID we acquired USC, famous University of Southern California. They approached us and said, look, with this COVID thing, and we're having graduations, but then we can't have the graduation, and people paid a lot of money to come to this school. The parents are pissed off that, we're just not going to have a ceremony and this. So we want to have a graduation ceremony, even if we have to do it from our homes. It says, can you help us with the interpreting side of it? Because there's a lot of parents mainly they were asking us for Spanish, Chinese, and Korean, I think. And said, but how can we do this? So we start getting with Zoom, everybody, meetings and all that. And it ended up being a fantastic graduation where even the guys playing the instruments for the band of USC, each one was playing in their home. The trumpet guy, but they had to sync, and they connected on Zoom, and they were playing the whole thing for the graduation ceremony. And then the ceremony went on, and our interpreters were simultaneously, and then the parents were saying, oh yeah, my son's getting graduation. This is what they're saying about him or the school or their future. And I really was almost in tears to see so many people that were in misery in their home, locked up, and they saw their son or daughter graduated, and there was music, and there was ceremony. And those are when you say, God, I love what I do, Yeah.
Oh, you gave me goosebumps. You gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing that, Arturo.
You're
And I'm glad that you are you're writing your biography right now, because I'm sure that when it's going to be done.
Well, it's going very slower than I thought, but I hope to finish it next year for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm 71 years old, so it's a lot of years and in 90 countries. So you don't write that very easily, and I do a lot of research because I want people to understand, like when I lived in a kibbutz or I went through the war in Nicaragua, the Sandinistas. So I want to give something, not just that I was going there through, but what was going on there. So once you're going there, it's going to be many pages, and hopefully not too many, because then nobody will read it. But
I will read it.
Okay.
I will read it.
Thank you.
What is the next country you're traveling?
I'm going to Cuba and Jamaica. I've been to Cuba already, but I'm going to do Jamaica this time as the 91st, right? But and then I'm going to go. I fell in love with Africa, so I'm going back maybe December, January to South Africa, but do all the different Namibia and all those little countries in the south. That's the next one.
Well, Thank you, Arturo. That was incredibly motivating.
Well, thank you. I thank you for the opportunity too, because when you first said, I said I don't know if I can contribute, but like you said, it's a conversation between travelers and linguist professionals. So you are very remarkable, and I'm looking forward to seeing your podcast and autobiography too. One day, you're too young.
Thank you, and I just think that voiceover and dubbing is something that it will stay with actors, because I honestly think that when you watch movies, this is something that it's emotional.
Oh yeah.
And it's a human touch that you mentioned that we need there.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So if you're going to be talking to young actors, and we're going to be talking about this somebody who is coming. We are in Hollywood right now.
Yes.
I don't believe it. Just so close. If somebody because I don't want young generation to lose interest in what you do,
Right.
and what you have built. And also, to me, it is very important that my daughter and her generation have access to the movies and art across the globe.
Yeah.
Right? Because, our movies here, domestic, is great, but seeing the art and movie industry from all parts of the world, it's open horizons and understanding what other cultures are doing.
Yes.
So if you are to give one actionable item to motivate and understand and how to get into the industry, what would you recommend?
Well, I would recommend first of all that they understand the power of your voice, and in how many ways you can educate it to do multiple things, like audiobooks, for example, it's a big industry. It's not paying well yet, but I think it will be, because an audiobook from a person that not only reads well, but it's like an actor, can make up a difference in sales. That's just one point. But I think the projection of your voice, where is even to just be the main speaker at a wedding, or there's so many different places. Like, I never thought, when I had a passion for languages, everybody says, "Oh, you want to be an English teacher?" I said, "Maybe, I don't know." I had no idea what I was going to do. I love languages and I like travel, and I found this niche. I didn't go to a translator and interpreter school. I didn't go to a voice acting school. This thing came because I did discover the power of my voice, and then the other skills can be acquired. And for future generations, they already have other tools that we don't have. They grew up already with their cell phones and with things like that. So they will find their own niche, I am sure. Just believe in the power of their voice and their knowledge and humanity. Stay with community, and they can go as far as as they want.
Well, guys, believe in the power of your voice and believe in the community. Thank you, Arturo.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank
Yeah, thank you so much.